Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to sit down and play around with some makeup. This is a face mostly of first impressions, and there was definitely a mixed bag. There were a few surprises, not necessarily good surprises. So I recently bought a load of new Revolution products. It was mainly from the XX Revolution range, and I wanted to sit down and try them out for you guys on camera today. So this is what I came up with. And before we get into the video, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I basically review makeup, do tutorials, get ready with me's, all that good stuff. So if that's what you're into, I would absolutely love if you would subscribe. And if you want to see how I got this look and what I thought of all the Revolution products, then please keep watching. Okay, so now that we are zoomed in way too close to my face, I want to get started with the eyes because I kind of fancy doing more of a dramatic look today. I feel like my previous videos recently have been really natural and kind of everyday looks. I've actually just filmed all this, but my mic wasn't on, so yeah, I'm doing it again. I picked up this palette because I had initially ordered a quad which was just blue shades, and it looked really nice, but it smashed when it was being delivered, and when I went to return it and replace it, they didn't have the one that I had ordered, so I just picked up this instead. The only thing is that it doesn't really have a great transition shade for my skin tone. It has this very dark brown here, so that's probably what I'm gonna work with. Also, I'm not the biggest fan of these two matte shades. I just think they don't really go with the vibe of the palette for me. They're not that pigmented. They're a bit kind of, I don't know, they're just a bit kind of, I guess, boring. That sounds really mean. But all the other shades are just so nice and so like prominent and sparkly that those two, it just feels a bit like, why were they put in there? But anyway, I also picked up this eyeshadow primer. I've already put it on because I just filmed this bit without the mic, but basically all I thought was it feels like oil when it goes on, but just now it's been kind of drying for a few seconds. It has gone a little bit tackier. And just quickly to show you the two black shades, I guess on camera they're kind of showing up a little bit different, but they're not hugely different in my opinion. I don't really think you needed both. I think they definitely could have added another transition shade instead of one of the black colours, but I think I prefer Ore, which is this one. It's just a little bit kind of shimmerier and more like gunmetal black. So to start, I'm just going to take the colour Weld and work that into my crease. So my initial thoughts, I don't know if you can see how like patchy this is in the middle, but I don't think that's the eyeshadow. I think that's the eyeshadow primer because it's kind of just like sticking. I don't feel like I can give the eyeshadows a fair chance. I'm just gonna keep trying to like work it in and see if we can make it work. If not, I might take off the primer from this eye and see if it makes much of a difference. Like, look how patchy it is. I'll be back in 2 seconds. I'm just gonna go wipe off the primer from this eye and see how that fares. Okay, so I'm just gonna go in with the same color on my left eye and hopefully it will blend a bit better. I don't think it was the primer. Okay, so now this eye is just patchy, but it's just not as dark. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take them both off. I'm gonna put a bit of concealer down and see if that helps. Okay, so I'm gonna use my Stay Naked concealer from Urban Decay in the color 10CP. Okay, so I just spent quite a few minutes putting on quite a lot of eyeshadow. Hated how it came out. It wasn't working, so I've just scrapped it. I've gone back to the concealer base and I'm gonna start again. I've just been swatching some of the pink shades here. They don't look as pink in the viewfinder as they do on my hand. Also, I think I'm just gonna skip out on using Weld because it was just making my eyes look muddy and it wasn't really adding anything. So I'm gonna go straight in with Ironclad, and I'm just using a slightly smaller, fluffier brush, and I'm just gonna take that into my crease. honestly, my first impression of these shadows is not good. I'm struggling to blend them. And considering I've tried them with an eye primer, without an eye primer, with different brushes, with my fingers, like it really should not be this hard. So eventually that kind of blends out smoothly, but it was going on a bit patchy at first. Also, considering this is a black shade, it's not come out very pigmented at all. I've picked up quite a lot on my brush. I really had to dig it in there for it to show up at all. There's a bit of pigment. I really had to dig my brush around. I was like, urgh. I think these eyeshadows are just like, they're kind of creamy, which I guess in some ways is good, but it's not the best for like blending with a brush. I'll show you how hard I had to dig my brush in to get that pigment to show up. I'm just taking a clean fluffy brush with nothing on it, and I'm just going to go over that slightly. I'm just going to take this tiny little brush and a little bit of concealer and cut my crease. So next I'm going to take the colour Furnace for the inner and outer corners of my eye. I'm going to try with a brush first, and if that doesn't work I'm going to use my fingers. That's pretty good. Next, taking a clean brush, I'm going to use the colour Rock and pop that in the middle. Rock seems quite creamy, so I don't know if this is going to show up with a brush, but we'll see. Okay, going in with my finger. The thing is, I know some eyeshadows apply better with your finger, but unless you're just doing it all over the lid, it's very difficult to do anything that requires any kind of precision. Going back into Furnace, I'm just going to blend those edges together. They looked a lot different in colour on my hand than they're currently looking on my eye. I'm just going to go over the top of Rock with the colour Rect. I'm just going back into the fluffy brush I used for the black eyeshadow. I haven't added anything to it, but I'm just going to buff out this line. I am probably going to regret this, but I'm going to use the colour Rect in my inner corner. Taking that up to meet the black shade. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the colour Plate on top to see if I can tone it down a bit. Okay, I'm going to do my lower lash line after I've put my foundation and everything on. I also picked up this gel liner that comes with a little brush, so I'm going to see how that applies. That was pretty good. I didn't like the brush. It was too big, it wasn't precise enough, but the actual liner, I would definitely use that again. I definitely went for a very dramatic wing, but I mean, I think the eye's kind of cool for it, so it's fine. I'm gonna do my eyelashes at the end. So I've been really excited to try the Cloud Complexion primer. It comes in this little tub, and it kind of looked like a whipped formula. It just looks a bit like almost like a mousse or something. It's probably a bit much, but oh well. Okay, just ignore my headband. Oh, I put way too much on. It smells nice, it smells quite coconutty. It feels a bit like a silicone primer, except it sort of feels like it blends out into water. I don't know if that makes sense. MaXX Revolution Cloud Complexion Primer is a dream for blurred and brightened skin. It's basically a filter in a jar. If you want something that instantly blurs pores and illuminates complexions, this is your gal. The texture is sorbet-like, yeah, fair, and super soft to touch. It gives you an insanely silky blurred finish with a subtle iridescent radiance. I mean, I can see the radiance. I guess it maybe blurred my pores a little bit, not that much. I definitely have primers that blur my skin a lot more. So the number 28 primer serum by Hourglass, this really, really blurs out my face, and I'm not getting the same vibes from that primer, but I mean, I don't hate it. It feels nice. I'd use it again. It feels hydrating. I don't know if it's gonna make my makeup last longer. And I also picked up a foundation. I believe this is the more hydrating one. I think there was like a mattifying one, and then there was like a dewy finish one. So it was that one because I have dry skin. I got it in the shade FX 3.5. I really struggled to shade match myself online, so we will see how this turns out. Pump some on the back of my hand. Okay, so I'm gonna go in on this side of my face with a foundation brush and this side with a beauty blender only. I will blend this side of my face with a beauty blender as well, but that's just what I do whenever I use a foundation brush. I'm gonna do one half at a time in case this dries down quickly. We'll start with the brush side. To be fair, that's actually quite a good match. Look at me. Okay, so this is definitely full coverage. I have to say, I really like the finish of this. I feel like my pores look reduced, my skin overall just, like, it doesn't look cakey for full coverage. It just looks like it's covered all of my redness, like, because I had spots like these on the other side of my chin. And yeah, that just looks really, it still looks like skin. I'm actually quite impressed with that. I'm gonna go in on the other side and see how it blends with the beauty blender. I have to say, I'm really impressed with that. Let me just zoom you in. If you can see, this is where I had all those spots on my chin. Like, it's just completely covered them. I don't even feel like I need concealer for the spots. I'm gonna apply a little bit of concealer under my eyes, just using my Urban Decay Stay Naked. So I didn't get any bronzers or blushes from Revolution, so I'm just gonna use my Fenty cream bronzer in Macchiato. And then I'm gonna use my Fenty cream blush as well in Petal Poppin. And since we're already using quite a lot of Fenty, I'm gonna use the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter powder. This is in the shade Butter. So I picked up the XX Fine Micro Brow Definer. This is in the shade Blonde. I was gonna get it a bit darker, but I already have two dark eyebrow pencils, so I thought I would get it in blonde so I would have a little bit of variety. But because I'm doing quite a dramatic eye look, this might be too light for me. So if that's the case, then I'll just go over it with my ABH pencil, but we will see. Yeah, it looks very light. It's actually an exact match for my hair colour. I actually think this is quite a nice pencil, but it's a little bit too light considering my eyes are so dramatic. I'd probably use it on like no makeup days. So I'm just gonna fill in the rest of my brows off camera with my ABH Brow Wiz in Ash Brown. No. Guys, I've just realized I've been telling you the wrong shade. This is medium brown. So I'm gonna go fill in the rest of my eyebrows with my ABH Brow Wiz in medium brown. Just gonna add a little bit of powder, bronze and highlight. So I'm gonna use my Charlotte Tilbury Filmstar Bronze and Glow. So for my lower lash line, I'm going to take the colour Lead on a pencil brush. This one's just by Sigma, it's the E30. This colour is also quite creamy, so I really hope it shows up. For lashes, I have these ones by Revolution, which I do want to use because I wanted to use as many Revolution products as possible, but they're very kind of natural looking and wispy. So just because of that, I'm gonna use my Unicorn Cosmetics Forget Me Not lashes. Otherwise I feel like you're just not gonna see my eyelashes. So I'm just gonna apply those and some mascara and I'll be right back. So finally for lips, I've got these two lipsticks by Revolution. One is called Stripped and one is called Rumba. So these are the two shades. Rumba is definitely more of a brown nude and Stripped is more of a dusky pinky rose colour. So I think I'm gonna go in with Rumba and then I might highlight with Stripped. But first I'm gonna overline my lips using Strip Down by MaXX. For a matte lipstick, this feels quite creamy. And to set, I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty setting spray. Hey guys, it's Sunday evening and I filmed this video on Friday evening. Because it was so late, it was about 9 o'clock when I was filming, I didn't get to do a wear test. So I thought I would do one today and just insert the footage here. So it's 20 to 10 Sunday evening and I put this foundation on around 12, just before 12. So it's been on my face for about 10 hours now. I did all the same steps that I did in the video. I used the same primer, obviously the foundation, and set it with the same powder, everything, just so I could get the best test possible. And this is what it's looking like now. So as you can see, it's very, very shiny. It has separated on my chin and my nose. It's almost gone around my mouth, but we did go out for lunch, so I'm not too worried about that. So this obviously isn't for someone with oily skin. Like I've said a million and one times, I have dry, dehydrated skin. So where my makeup breaks up on my chin and my nose, that's where I'm dehydrated. And I struggle with every single foundation to keep makeup on my chin and on my nose. So that isn't too surprising. In terms of the foundation itself, I think it's very comparable to the NARS Radiant Longwear foundation, except I actually think this lasts a lot better. With the NARS, I notice it breaking up a lot all over my face, whereas this one hasn't broken up so much around my cheek and around my forehead. I feel like the rest of my foundation has stayed pretty well intact. But the finish of both the Revolution and the NARS foundation were very, very similar. So I'm actually very happy with how it's lasted. So when I do a wear test, I don't blot, I don't add any extra powder. I just let the foundation sit on my face and see what it would do naturally over the course of however many hours. And obviously if I was at work or if this was just a normal day, then I would blot or I would add powder and it probably wouldn't look like this. But I don't like looking overly matte anyway, so I don't mind when my oils come through. I think that's fine. I do think if you have oily skin, it probably wouldn't be the best because it might just end up slipping all over your face. But if you have dry skin, and especially if you have super dry skin, this is probably going to be quite a nice foundation for you. So I also had some other thoughts on the color match. I know I loved it when I was filming it on Friday, but on Friday I had the Vita Liberata Body Blur tan on, and today I do not. I am my natural pasty self today, and I did notice that it was probably a shade too dark for me. Once I like blended it down my neck and everything, it wasn't that noticeable. Plus, because I have such long hair, it tends to cover up my neck, so it acts like a little bit of a disguise if my shade is slightly off. But it wasn't the worst shade match ever. It's definitely perfect when I have a tan. When I don't, I might need to go a shade lighter, but it's not impossible to make it work. So I know some people probably wouldn't find this wear test a success, because for a lot of people, looking this shiny at the end of the day isn't what you're aiming for, and that's fine. But for me, this is what I tend to look like at the end of the day anyway. And if I go the other way and have a super mattifying foundation, then I just look really dry. And because I'm already quite dehydrated, my skin just sort of rebels against the dryness of those foundations, so I end up like this anyway. It's something that is the biggest conundrum in my makeup life. I can never figure out how to get foundation to stay on my face as a dry, dehydrated skin person. Anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to check in just to show you what this looks like after 10 hours with no touch-ups on my skin. I think there's a number of factors that play into this as well, including not just my skin type, but also the primer and the amount of powder I used, the setting spray I used. The primer was obviously quite hydrating, and the setting spray is a dewy setting spray, so obviously those things are going to contribute to how the foundation looks at the end of the day. But I'm gonna stop rambling on because this video is already so freaking long. But I hope this was helpful for you guys, and I will see you later. Bye. This is the final result. I have to say, overall, I'm quite happy with how it turned out, like the general appearance of things. I'm not over the moon with the eyes. This palette looks so nice. And as I said earlier on, when I was filming this, I actually started again. I'd initially started trying to use Mineral and Core with Ore, and it just looked like a mess. Like I couldn't get it to work. So I thought, okay, let me start again and see if the other shades are easier to work with and see if they blend better together. And they didn't. I had to really dig into most of the shades to get them to show up. The majority of the shades in here are shimmery colors, and most of the shimmery colors are this creamy texture, which is impossible to get on a brush. So I had to apply it with my fingers, which, if you're trying to get a precise application, it's not going to be very useful. So I have to say, even though I loved the look of this, I was really excited to try this palette. I really didn't like how much effort I had to put into making them work. And I know there's probably an argument for whether or not I applied them correctly. However, I'm trying to review these from a standpoint of a normal person, not a makeup artist. And if I, as a normal person, am struggling to get them to show up on my eyes, to blend out, then who is this marketed for? Because no matter how much I'm paying, I don't want to put that much effort into trying to get my eyeshadow to look good, especially if I'm doing a dramatic eye. Like, if I'd have used this for the first time for a night out or something, I would have been very sorry, because it was really difficult to work with. So personally, I would not recommend this palette. The colors are gorgeous, but they were far too difficult to work with for me. Also, on that note, the eyeshadow primer. I didn't really get to see it in action, because when I first applied the eyeshadows, I thought this was the reason that my eyeshadow was going on patchy. So I ended up taking it all off and just using concealer. And granted, the concealer did help it to go on a little bit less patchy, but it didn't help that much. I did notice that when I applied the eyeshadow without this primer and when I applied it with the primer, the eyeshadows definitely showed up more pigmented. When I'm first applying Weld, you can see when I tried to take off the primer that it was coming up patchy and also not as pigmented. So I haven't made my mind up on this yet. I think I will use it again with eyeshadows that I know are gonna work and see if that's any better. The gel liner I actually really liked. I thought the formula was really good. I pretty much dipped in once and I could do nearly the whole wing without having to like constantly re-dip. The colour was quite good, it was pretty matte. It glided on really well. The only thing I didn't like was the little brush that came with it. I just felt like it was too big, and for me, I think a smaller, more precise brush is better for this kind of application. I ended up getting kind of those lines where it had dragged across my skin and just basically not ended up with a straight line. So I will definitely try this again with a different brush and hopefully that will come out better, but I did like the gel liner. So next was the Cloud Primer. It smelled really nice, it felt really hydrating, a little bit went a long way. So initially it was quite silicone-y going on the skin, but once you kind of worked it into your skin, it felt like it was watering out, if that makes sense. It didn't feel like water, but it was definitely getting kind of less silicone-y. I don't know how to explain it, but it was nice. My skin felt hydrated afterwards, so I would definitely try this one again. So next up is the foundation. So like I said, this was the more hydrating of the two foundations. It just says foundation at the bottom, so I'm not sure what the actual name of it is, but I love how this made my skin look. It's full coverage without making it look like you've just got cake face. So my skin still looks like skin. It doesn't feel like I have heavy makeup on except on my eyes. I love the finish of this, like it's so nice. I thought the color match was absolutely perfect. I do have a little bit of Vita Liberata body blur on, so I am a tiny bit more tanned, but it's kind of like sheared out by my neck. So for reference, I use Fenty Beauty, the hydrating foundation. I use it in shade 120 when I don't have a tan and 140 when I do. But if you wanted a direct comparison, this is Fenty Beauty Hydrating 120, and then this one is FX 3.5. And I thought 120 was too pink for me, but this is the color I have on my face. And I don't think it looks too pink at all. I think it actually looks quite neutral. And then this top shade here is Fenty Beauty 140. I'm very, very happy with the shade match on that. The next thing I tried was the brow pencil. I think this would be a great color for when I'm doing my no makeup days. To be honest with brow pencils, I don't really notice that much of a difference between any of them. I know people have like strong preferences when it comes to brow products, but for me, they don't make that much of a difference. I think NYX and the ABH one are basically the exact same thing. So for me, this was more about getting a different shade than trying a new brow product, but I'm happy with it. I think it's pretty good. And the last thing that I tried were the lipsticks. Considering they were matte lipsticks, they were so creamy to put on, and even now, it's been a few minutes and they haven't dried down. My lips still feel creamy. They feel a little bit like I have a thick balm on top of them instead of a matte lipstick. Like, they're definitely not drying. So these were pleasantly surprising. But that is it. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give a big thumbs up and leave a comment down below. Again, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you've watched this whole video, you must have enjoyed it, so you'll probably enjoy my other videos, and I would absolutely love to have you. And as always, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Don't forget... Okay. Oh shit.